Well, hello and welcome. And I want to today welcome my colleague and friend, Dr. Rainer Viehweger, and we're going to be covering a lot of topics about the fundamental scaling law, how it applies to the world we see at the moment, and how we can use that understanding to maximize a positive change and understand life better. And so I want to cover as much as you're able to today, Ryan. And first of all, thank you for agreeing to talk to me. It's wonderful to see you again.
Yeah, dear Patricia, it's always a pleasure to speak to you and with you, and I hope we can give the viewers, hopefully there will be some uh, for this video, that they have a little bit of a takeaway in terms of how they would change their views about the world. So I think we are still caught in an old paradigm, and we still have not really uh, ingested that the reality we see around us and also our bodies, that everything is based on vibrating energy. Even if we know that the building blocks we are made of are called oscillators or electromagnetic standing waves. And still, we see the world a little bit like as we have done it in the last maybe 200 years when chemistry developed, that we see the atoms as little balls and protons and electrons, just like little balls, which we can arrange in this and that way. And so we still see differences in how things may work and how they really are. I'm just reading, or have been reading recently, a book by a professor from London, Nick Lane, and I think he's a biochemist and biologist, and he had this book, The Vital Question: Why is life the way it is? And he talks about how the first cells could have been evolved in the deep oceans, in alkaline hydrothermal vents, and it all makes a lot of sense from this point of view, but there are still some questions. And if we would add the idea that there is vibrational energy involved, which acts as a forming factor for the many shapes and the variety of different things that are created from it, then our understanding may be much better, and we also would see how things are interconnected.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think we've got so used to the billiard ball idea of matter, haven't we? Atoms and subatomic particles and so on. It's
Yeah,
good to realize that there's a vibration underneath that.
yeah, yeah.
And that's really your specialism. You understand this better than anyone, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
and no, I don't. But I, I may have a little idea of it because I think that uh, the universe is so complex, and even if we look at our body, I am a medical doctor, and I believe that we have not even touched the majority of the knowledge that we need to understand how our bodies really work. We have figured out some physiology and some biochemistry, and we also have a little bit of an idea how thoughts are affecting the nervous system. and then the nervous system may affect the function of our cells, and look at all these psycho-neuro immunological causes of disease.
Yeah.
But still, I think there's much more to it. And if we look at this universal scaling law, the global scaling, then we have access to so much information that is stored in the vast times and spaces of the universe, only when we are not under stress. And this is what we what we should maybe talk about a little bit, because so many clients and people we know are doing meditations, they practice yoga, and just want to be somehow and in harmony and calm down. And this is very important. Some Eastern wisdoms also say that switch off your thoughts, and then you get better, which takes us again back to the notion how our thoughts can affect our health, if they are the wrong thoughts. And let's talk about stress and what it really is. Every system that is made of oscillators, so a vibrating system such as us, for example, has a state in which it likes to vibrate calmly. And then if anything like an interaction with the environment happens, there's always not only an interchange of information when we look at something or we hear something or we touch something, but there's also an exchange of energy that goes with it. And not only we become changed when we see something, also the observed object or subject will change. So there's always this interaction, and we could call this an excitement, when we pick up some energy. And this excitement is really what we may call stress.
Good point.
So it's picking up more energy than we normally need. And I think that it's not bad, because this is how, and when we, in a philosophical way, look what we are doing here, then I think that we are exploring the world, and we are collecting emotions and information, and then integrate it into our system, and in a moment without stress, this information is from us provided to everything else in the universe. Not only to all other people, but to probably all stars and planets and all galaxies and all the living beings and the rocks and whatever may be there. Because everything is made out of the same building blocks, which we call protons and electrons in the atoms. Every matter is made of. And this is an interesting concept, I would say. And
the exchange itself is not one way, is what you're saying. It's not just we observe something. It's that in the observation we change the observed, and we co-create, I suppose, a new pattern, if you like. just
Yeah,
by interacting with
we
it.
don't know if we always would create a new pattern. We sometimes we only distort a different pattern, and
Yeah.
and the oscillating system which we observe uh, is feeling that change because
Mm,
it also uh, gains or loses some energy.
mm. Energy exchanges.
And
Yeah,
we
happening.
don't know how a tree that we look at or a person or even a house that we may call inanimate would sense that.
Mm,
A person
mm,
and a tree
mm.
may sense it more easily than a house that
The
is
house.
made out of more crystalline structures and has less sensory antennas for that. But still, even if you
Mm,
don't know, there is an energy and information exchange always.
mm. Yeah, I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
Mm,
And in these times we are going through now, this is also related to harmonious oscillations. When we look, and we talked already about this fundamental fractal, which is which is basically uh, a spectrum of numbers with ranges where the density of some numbers is very high. And these are numbers which support ratios that avoid resonance that can destroy. So in other words, these are ratios which would create more stability than others for
yeah.
systems to exist and coexist. And those areas on this scale, on this fundamental fractal, if we relate it to time, and time is simply the related to the oscillation period, so to one turn of a spinning proton or electron. And that's the basic measure. And everything else can be related to that. And does it relate to it 100 times, 1,000 times, 1 billion times, which would create resonance, but also may be very destructive because it would amplify over time and destabilize itself. So there are ratios of numbers chosen by nature, which are not whole number ratio. So it may be 1 billion, but a little bit off, not in a whole number ratio, more in an irrational relationship.
To
To,
avoid
to
resonance.
avoid
Yeah.
this, yes, to avoid
Yes.
this
Yes.
destabilizing resonance. Because
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, we need resonance for easy energy and the information exchange,
Mm-hmm.
but not too good that we would destroy the system over time. And when we look at this time fractal, then I feel that, and I think that's true, also in a mathematical way, though I cannot say when the starting point of the process was, or which we now see the big change. But that we are in big changes is simply given by the huge amount of events, of different events that we see everywhere happening today. And we all have the feeling that time is just running and passing by very fast.
Yeah.
And we could call this there's a high density of events that are happening.
Mm.
And this is something on the scale which brings us to this attractor point in which we always see turbulences. And the process in its evolution goes through it and changes its phase, because it's also related to vibrations. It will change phase and it will gain new quality.
Mm. So,
And
yeah.
what the scale does is it only provides us with the opportunity or the maximum probability for the change, but how that change will look like depends on what we are doing with it.
Mm.
So it's in our hands. We are provided with the maximum opportunity to make a change, but it depends on our conscious state, how this will look like at the end. So it depends on our intention, on our goals. And I think to go into a very nice future, we should have the right worldview and see
For sure.
ourselves as an integrated part of a huge oscillating system, which we may call the universe.
Universe, yeah. Mm.
And not separated, because we saw ourselves in the old worldview or in the old paradigm. We always had the living or us and the inanimate, and we have a huge impact on everything. Of course we have, but we are not separated from it, so we always interact with it.
Yeah, I think it's a good worldview that we have a responsibility to set a good intention for this time, even though it's turbulent, that
Yeah.
there is a positive
the turbulent provides
potential.
us with the opportunity to make a shift.
Yes.
So the shift is coming, but where we'll go depends on us, on our goals.
Yeah. Well, it's important to get it right then, isn't it? To have that intention of bettering our world and
and
not
what
seeing
does
everything.
and what does bettering mean? It's just it goes also back to some religious and philosophical questions, where we could simply say what we do should always serve us and others. And this is related to what we had as competition, and on the other hand, as cooperation and communication. So I think there is always competition in the world to a certain degree, and then it turns into cooperation.
It's the balance
when it's mature. And I think I learned it from the forests. So you may know there is this book about the communication and what is called the World Wide Web in the forests, where they all communicate and the trees support each other and live together with all these fungi and bacteria in their root system. And what happens is really that the trees, when they grow, they just compete in who can reach the sun first. But then when they became adult and had reached this level, then they just change and start cooperate to serve the whole forest.
Yeah.
And probably this could also be related to our society. where we were in our teens. And now we have the chance to become adults.
Mm. Good analogy.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
if we go back, and this all relates to each other, if we talk about analogies, then these are similar things with the same pattern on different levels. And this simply is something that is a property of a fractal structure.
Yes.
And we hear that everything is fractal everywhere, and nobody tells you why that is, why we find fractality in nature. And the
Right.
simple reason for that is that in an oscillating system, which is the universe, that oscillates in a harmonious way, it's always creating fractal structures.
Yeah. Self-similar. We should just define that. So at different scales.
Self-similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really important point. I think understanding that a complex system organizes itself according to certain harmonic relationships, if you
Yes.
like.
Yes. And we also
Yeah.
today why it is doing that.
Yeah.
Because the energy that is needed to do that is lowest. So it's very effective.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
gives us um, the explanation why we should get away from competition
Mm.
to cooperation.
Mm.
Because from the energetic point of view, cooperation and communication is more effective than competition.
Yes. Which that's what we've learned, isn't it, from observing woodlands and the mycelium that run underneath and communicate, and that cooperation is the model that nature uses, not exclusively. As you said, there are moments where competition is to the fore, but in a self-sustaining system like an old growth forest or an ancient woodland, these harmonics are underpinning everything,
Yeah.
because it's the most efficient way of organizing the ecosystem, of
Mhm.
which we are a part. Of course, we tend to think we're separate, but we're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, tell me more about kind of how humans. I don't know if that's what you wanted to talk about, but how do we kind of fit in that picture?
We fit in that picture, and in everything basically. But you are a therapist and I am. So what we deal with every day is people who have health problems,
Yeah.
and what we need to try is just help them figure out what kind of energetic and informational interaction is causing distortion and destruction in their very complex uh, harmonic oscillatory system that we call the body.
Yeah, that's another way of looking at health
Yeah,
versus illness, isn't it? A
yeah,
distortion in the energetic harmonics of the human body.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if we finally see somehow or get an understanding that the body appears to us as a as a fixed body that we can touch and we cannot go through it and so forth. So um, uh, it's a compact something, and the only reason why we don't see the oscillations going on in the body is that they're simply too fast.
Mm. Yeah, we can't perceive them.
Yeah,
We
can't
can we
perceive them.
can feel them though sometimes.
Yeah, to a
I
certain
can feel them.
repetition rate, to a certain
Uh-huh.
frequency,
Uh-huh.
we can feel it. But it's
Mm.
just like if we would watch a film from the old one with the different images
Yeah, slower rate.
on a celluloid. If it runs very slow,
Mm.
then we can see the images how they change, and then when they are on the right speed, the movement of the persons in the film are just kind of real, how
Fluid.
we see
Yeah.
them with our eyes. And if it would run faster, then as we can see it sometimes in the films from the 1910s or so when it all started,
Mm.
that they are running very fast and so forth. And there is a threshold for our eyes and ears, what we can perceive, and everything else appears as a standing something, like on a TV screen or on a computer monitor. If it's 50, 60 hertz, then we see it flickering. If it's 120 hertz and above,
Yeah.
then we don't see it anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I used to have to adjust my screen because I could always see flickering at slower rates. And if I
Yep.
speed it up, I can't. With the human body, uh, I sometimes become aware in yoga when I'm doing yoga, and there's a particular pose that I do called the chair pose. When I put my hand, I can do it now actually. When I put my hands either side, I can feel an energy between them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe I'm saying that, but you know, I've had training in Reiki now, and I've become aware that you can perceive the energetic sort of, I don't want to call it shape, but there's an energetic pattern to the human body, and you can feel distortions in that. And I think that's the basis of energy healing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to get away from the notion that the body is a purely physical phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense of just hard matter, you know, it's just billiard balls. You know, it's a vibration, and I think when we
Yeah.
interact with that, that's when we can heal
Yeah. Yeah.
to a
But
fundamental level.
everything else is the same.
Yeah,
So the chair we're
the
sitting on
chair is the same.
is the same thing.
Yeah.
Uh, it's it's only much simpler in its composition. So it doesn't have that flexibility we have, and it doesn't have the different senses
Mm,
that
no.
we are. So it has no eyes
Uh-huh.
to see, and
Mm,
it has no nervous system to. But still, there are the wooden fibers that are interconnected.
mm-hmm.
They are made of the same atoms that we are made of, which is carbon and hydrogen and oxygen
Yeah.
and nitrogen. So plant cells are not very different from our cells, but in a wooden chair, those cells are dried out.
Yeah. There's no life force in them, or very
So
little. Yeah.
the water is gone, and it has
Mm.
lost its flexibility, and it wouldn't react that much with the environment anymore as it did when it was still part of a living tree.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So it has changed. But still,
Mm. Mm.
it's something we can communicate.
Mm. Yeah. Not that many people would choose to communicate with a chair, but You can kind
Yeah,
of see
in
the idea.
general, there is that opportunity for us because
Yeah.
we have these two um, oscillators which act like metronomes throughout the whole universe, which are the protons in the nuclei of the atoms everywhere. And those are oscillators. And when they are not stressed, so when they are resting on the lowest energy level and left in a state that they want to be in, then they all vibrate on the same energy level and connect with each other throughout the whole universe. They form a field, and in a field,
Yeah.
communication can happen instantly.
Mm. Yeah.
So information exchange and communication can happen instantly.
We talk about entanglement. I think that's kind of what you're
Yeah,
suggesting.
we might call it entanglement. Yeah,
Mm.
and the same is true for electrons.
Yes. Yeah, they're the two fundamental particles, really,
Yeah.
despite the fact that physicists want to break things down even further. They are the fundamental units, if you like.
Now they're also so dominating
Yeah.
because their lifespan is basically the eternity. They're always there, and all the other few hundred particles are also little space-time oscillators, but they are only present for
Fractions of a
fractions of seconds and fractions of nanoseconds for a very, very short time. So they cannot provide that stability.
Yeah.
Create big, big cycles. Which protons and electrons can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the stuff of matter, really, as we call it. And so where does that lead us? How can we better, we touched on this, how can we better understand our universe in order to interact with it in a more cooperative way, if you like?
Yeah, so I think the first step is knowing a little bit of what we were just talking about. And then some people say just do a kind of an internal search. But yeah, and I think that's true. So if we have an idea of who we are, then we can also have an idea of who the other person around us is. And then we can know that we interact with each other and that we exchange information and energy with each other. And then we can probably have a better idea of how we also kind of treat and respect each other or not, and who is responsible for something if it creates a trauma in us or something.
Yeah.
Which what I find really interesting is I don't know if we talked about that earlier, but there are those books about the 4 agreements from Don Migual Ruez, who is think of Mexican origin, a doctor and shaman who talks about those 4 agreements, and these are rules that we can apply. And if you want me, I could say them, and we could talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And There's also a book that is titled The Four Agreements. And the first one is be impeccable with your word. So we have to take care about what we say.
Yeah.
About ourselves, to ourselves.
Ah, yes. Yes. Gosh, I work with that all
Yeah.
the time. People who are very
And,
hard on
and
themselves and
sometimes if something isn't working and we say to ourselves, oh, I'm stupid,
yeah.
then it has an effect.
Yeah, it does. It depresses the immune system. Everything just vibrates with that low frequency.
It has an effect.
Mm.
And he always talks that about, and this is very drastic because it would compare us to our pets. And he says when we are born and are babies, then we are still wild and free. But then our parents, teachers, and the religion, and he talks about that we become domesticated, just
Yeah.
like just like wild animals and our pets, so that we do at the end what we are expected to do
Yeah.
because we all want to be loved.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You do whatever you need to stay in connection with parents and
Yeah.
people
And
that,
so,
yeah.
and this way we become programmed in a certain way.
Mm,
And
definitely.
he also talks about that we develop a judgment system in ourselves where we always judge ourselves.
Mm.
And this relates to the kind of Toltec way of war. So if because then if you want to get rid of it, you become a warrior, but the enemy is that judge in
Within.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. The enemy within. Yeah. It's a very difficult one, isn't it? But you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it, and these four agreements can help with that. So the first is that we have to be careful what we tell to ourselves,
Yep.
and of course to others. And then on the other hand, the second agreement is don't take anything personally,
I like that.
because what we hear from others about ourselves, it's just their way of seeing us.
It's their perception. Yeah.
And they also are programmed in a certain way.
Very true.
And then
Yeah.
we don't need to take that personally.
Mm.
And we
No.
hear this very often, so it has nothing to do with us. It's within them
Yes.
sometimes, and only to become aware of these things helps us not to become
Attached.
that much traumatized
Yeah.
from others. And what does a trauma mean in this sense? Uh, it creates it's a very quickly or fast happening distortion in our body field, which
Mm.
leaves a distorted imprint.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of saying it. Yeah. Yeah. Like a shadow almost.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like a kind of damage in a car.
Yeah. A dent in the energy field. Yes. Very good. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's such an important point. I don't want to interrupt your because you've got another two
yeah,
points
yeah.
to make, but I love that taking other people's impression of you so seriously is what causes a lot of damage to people because it resonates with the judgment they already make of themselves inside. So those 2 points are very connected, actually.
Yeah.
And
in this way, we just come to the third one, which says don't make assumptions.
mm-hmm.
So if we draw conclusions from what we hear, which we could probably just before we do that, think about the situation, or what we sometimes do as therapists, try and be the observer of the situation. Get out of that role, look at it from above, and then watch the situation, and then draw your conclusions, or just leave it as it is. And the fourth is always do your best. And
that's enough.
That's it. And that can cause pressure because sometimes your best is more, sometimes it is less, depending on the situation and the state in which you find yourself.
Yeah, I guess we need to distinguish between best as in top, the absolute pinnacle, and the best that you can do in any given moment, which is
right.
Kind of the word that I use there is it's enough. When you try your hardest, you do what you do, and you try and obviously make it better as you learn, but to forgive yourself, I guess, for what you did not know in that moment, and to become aware of that and aim to do better next time, but enough is okay, as long as it's with a good intention, I think, to be present. And so many people aren't present. They're in the past when they approach a situation. I know I'm not just talking theoretically. I know I can be triggered and go into trauma reactions, and it's so common, isn't it? But that's so simple. Those four things, they're so simple, and yet they're so profound.
Yeah. And there's another one. There's also a fifth in another book.
Okay, let's add another one.
which is a little bit different from those four, which are very closely related to each other. But the fifth says, don't believe anything. So doubt everything. And try to go to the fundamentals of things, or can that be true? Or whose truth is it? What type of truth is that they're talking about? So doubting everything. And I think for the time we are living in now, this fifth agreement is also very, very important. Because
absolutely.
Everything that we used to do, so the science, the way of how we do finances, the way of how the economy and agriculture are run, and every statement that was made in the last, let's say, 100 years about it, is that true? So we can just doubt everything and rethink things. And then check it with the other things we talked about. How does it serve us or ourselves, and how does it serve the others?
Now this is such a big subject.
The planet, and this is it's a huge subject.
That's really,
and we could only touch a little bit on it.
We have had such a shift. You say in the last 100 years, I think, yes, everything has shifted massively. And the givens that we had, the beliefs we had about the purpose of the state and the purpose of money and the purpose of our lives has all been called into question because of the ideologies that we've seen come and go. But we have to ask that question: what do I believe?
Mhm.
No, is what I'm being told, is that true? And just to ask that question puts you in, like you said, it takes you out of the system and it gives you a different perspective of who am I in relation to that belief, that, I don't know, you will own nothing and you will be happy, for instance, which is a statement that's been made, as the idea of where we're headed into the future. And there are many people that question that because private ownership is part of self-sovereignty. And it also gives people meaning and purpose when you can say this is mine, not in a sort of accumulative way where you're just trying to amass money or goods, but to say, actually, I take care of this because it belongs to me.
Mhm.
And you would say that about the human body, of course.
Yeah.
This is mine in this time and space. So I'm going to take care of it. And I think that's a loving act. And I would like to see more of that in community, in money, in the way we interact with money,
Yeah.
sharing more of our
And you can
fun.
see things in so many ways, and we have to think about a little bit what is the intention behind,
Mhm.
because it may be good that I don't own anything, so
Maybe.
that I borrow everything, but
Uh-huh.
from who?
Yeah. But who is it coming
Who is
from?
it
What who
coming from?
yeah.
Who is it owning?
Yeah.
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 Is it only a couple of hundred people in the world and
Yeah.
they can dictate what I have to believe and to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have no problem with borrowing
Or is it
because
owned by the
yeah,
planet?
exactly. Who's in control?
That's different.
It is, yeah. Really, we're all borrowing the planet while we're alive. We're borrowing the time that we have from future generations. Yes, of course. I guess you ask the question, who serves to gain from whatever they're telling you? Um,
Mhm.
you know, if you're told, I'm going to come less political now, but if somebody tells you, in order to be healthy, you have to do a certain thing or take a certain thing, the question for you is, what do I believe
Mhm.
is right for me?
Right.
Um, and you have to sort of understand a lot of what you've been taught is a program.
Yeah. Yeah,
That sense
it's
of
a program, and I was thinking this morning and many times before, uh, what makes so-called bad people live to an old age?
yes, that's a very interesting question. How is it that
And
people who do bad things,
and
yeah,
I think it's in the programming.
mm,
So
mm,
what they are doing, and then it becomes related to energy. It doesn't cause them stress.
very good,
So
very
they
good.
are happy with it.
Yeah,
It doesn't cause them stress.
no, yeah.
And that's probably their upbringing, what they have learned, their domestication.
Well, they're just doing what they have been taught to do, and
Yeah,
therefore it's
yeah.
a low stress
But
situation. Yeah.
but they also have the responsibility, because they have the free will. They can always change.
Mm. Mm. Well, if they're aware of that, not everyone is.
Yeah, if they become aware of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I've often wondered, why is it that good people, passionate people, people who care so much, often die young.
Yeah,
You look at artists and musicians and people
yeah.
who kind of had so much to give, but they died young.
Some, yeah, some of those are probably uh, 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 sometimes killed in our society. But the saying "only the good die young," I
Yeah.
think it's related to a kind of a fear and worry which causes stress in them, and they simply
Very
run
true.
out of energy.
Yep. Yep. We've seen that a lot with people recently. Just everything starts to decay, if you like. Everything they try, it's a decreasing game, you know. So what, I know we haven't got terribly long now. So what is a good strategy for a person to live well and hopefully long?
It's a good question, and it's also a good summary for our talk today. And
Yeah.
yes, taking these four agreements, for example, into account,
Yeah. Yeah.
and probably also uh, those such thoughts and that I was asking, or questions that I was asking myself when I was a young student. So, what is this world for? So, why did God create it, or why is the universe existence? However you may call it. So there must be a purpose.
Yeah.
And at that time, I came up with an answer for myself, where I said, okay, if I would make sense somehow, and my life should be meaningful for something, then I should be one little part of that huge universe which experiences and explores and learns about itself.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
And
Yeah.
later on, I found this in some wisdom sayings of ancient traditions.
Yes.
And I think that's what it's really about.
Yeah. We're part of a bigger picture that's constantly learning
Yeah.
and reiterating itself. And we therefore have a responsibility
Mhm.
to do it to the best of our ability, if you like, to kind of interact with this world in a way that is, yeah, harmonic, you know,
Mhm.
to not be full of fear,
Mhm.
um, which distorts everything when you're in fear and stress,
Yeah.
you know, but to kind of tune in. I think that's what we're
Yeah.
learning to
Yeah.
do, and hopefully that will allow us to change the pattern that we are in at the
Yeah.
moment of
Yeah.
self-destruction.
Yeah, and there are so many things that we can do. One is sharing. So all the old
Yeah.
sayings in the Bible, so give and you will be given. So all these things,
Yeah, I like
uh,
that.
they fall into those categories. And if we see
Yeah.
ourselves as, or the whole universe as that vibrational, cooperating, communicating system, then it all makes sense.
Yeah. And what a wonderful way to uh, end a conversation today, I think, and just to allow people to have some hope and a sense that there is a meaning to life. It's not random. It does have underlying fundamental
Mhm.
uh, patterns or structures within it, embedded within it.
Mhm.
And we are an important part of the way that the universe is learning about itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Humans in particular, I think, are fundamentally part of, as we know, because we're in the middle of the fundamental fractal, as you've
In,
very clearly pointed out.
in such a turning point, yes.
And so we can, both in time and in space, we are part of the iterations up down from that point.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah, I find that fascinating.
If we all envision from inside how we would like to live in the future and how we want to our children to live in the future or next generations, and keep that image in mind, which sets up a pattern. And the more people have such a pattern, the more it will realize as a template.
Yeah, it doesn't take everybody, does it? It's just a number of people in harmony can create massive change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Despite the doom and gloom that we're reading everywhere, underneath that, I think is a sea change in conscious awareness and how humans need to evolve in order to protect the planet we're on and harmonize each other, you know, have a better quality of life and a more connected one. Anyway, I think that's a great place to end for today, but I know there's plenty more to say on this. I'm sure we'll have another conversation in the future. But I just want to thank you so much for your contribution. Truly, your contribution. I know you're a very modest man, and I do think your contribution is totally unique. I don't personally know of anyone talking about this in the way that you do in terms of the human experience. I mean, there's plenty of people talk about it in physics and you know, the world of the cosmos and so on. But when you bring it down to the human experience, I think your vision is extraordinary and matches everything I find when I'm working with people. You're a doctor, so clearly that's where you come from, and so I think that's a wonderful perspective. And if people want to contact you, how would they find you, Rainer?
They would find you. They would find me still looking at my website.
Yeah, which
we can put into the video later.
Okay, we'll put in the description. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time and, as ever, your wonderful insights. I so enjoy our conversations. I hope the audience do as well. Please, people, put your comments in the chat if you want to, and we'll certainly I'll have a look and comment back. So take care. Thank you for listening, everyone, and bye for now.
Thank you so much, Patricia. And I hope we can have a next conversation soon again.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you.